I'm Johnny Marr, and this is my Star Guitar playlist. So that was Needles in the Camel's Eye by Brian Eno. This is part of my Star Guitar playlist. It's an interesting concept. I like this idea of having to have some categories each night to play. It gives you a bit of an arty kind of angle. Growing up in the 70s, there was a lot of guitar greats. And some of those people were operating in bands from the late 60s, early 70s. And in some cases, as great as they were mostly for the generation and generations above me. The reason I picked Needles in the Camel's Eye is because cool guitar heroes were sometimes hard to find. And the guitar on that record is by the great Chris Spedding, who is primarily known as a session player and the guy who played mostly with Brian Ferry and Roxy Music. Famously, you see him in the Let's Stick Together video. He's the guy with the flying V and the cool leather gear. Anyway, that's my tribute to Chris Spedding. Amazing art rock guitars, Needles in the Camel's Eye, Brian Eno, years ahead of its time. Growing up as a guitar fiend in the 1970s would have been completely impossible to ignore the great Mick Ronson, who was playing with the great David Bowie. There's so much you can play from David Bowie, as we all know, but I thought I'd maybe just do something a little bit not obvious, a little bit different. This is something that reminds me of being a kid in my bedroom with a guitar playing along with a record player, and this is one of the things I used to play along to. It's Cracked Actor by David Bowie featuring the fantastic Mick Ronson. That was Amateur Hour by Sparks. I'm playing all these records that, for me, the guitar is the star. So, that being Sparks, it doesn't matter, because if, as you've just heard, it's got amazing guitar on it. And everything that I'm going to play tonight has informed me as a guitar player in one way or other. This next song that I'm going to play is Gimme Danger by the Stooges, Iggy and the Stooges from the Raw Power album. It was a massive moment for me hearing this song, because growing up in Wythenshawe, Manchester in the mid-70s, there was a bunch of me and my pals who were, we almost had like a guitar salon, as it were. Even though we were like pretty precocious little kids running around, there was 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of us, loads of guitar players, who analysed everything that was going on around at the time. But a pal of mine called Billy Duffy, who went on to form The Cult, heard me playing a riff on an acoustic guitar one evening, and he said to me, "Oh, it's Gimme Danger." I had no idea what Gimme Danger was. This was a new song that I thought I was writing of my own, and I was very pleased with this new song. Anyway, I wasn't too chuffed to find out that it had been written by somebody else, apparently, but I needed to find out who it was, because this was my thing. So I scraped the £3.25 together over the next couple of weeks, and I got on a bus and went into Virgin Records in Manchester, and I looked out for Raw Power by Iggy and the Stooges. And when I saw the cover, if anyone listening to this has seen the cover of Raw Power, you know what I mean. If you haven't, go and look at it right now. That moment was stunning and life-changing. And then when I brought the record home, I played Gimme Danger, and it sounded exactly like what I was doing. But instead of putting me off, it was like it shone a light on where I was going, and it was like validation. You'll know what I mean when you hear it, if you know my stuff. This is Gimme Danger with the great James Williamson on guitar. So I'm going to stick with this theme of me growing up in the mid-70s and hopefully play you something that you might find interesting. Bill Nelson, Bebop Deluxe. Some of you may have heard of him, some of you may not, sadly. Before punk, Bebop Deluxe were a kind of interesting outlier kind of group, led by Bill Nelson, who played wicked and very interesting guitar and unobvious guitar. So he was another one that I really had my eye on, and I thought he was a pretty cool dude, and I still do. Have a listen to this. This is a record, a 45, called Made in Heaven by Bebop Deluxe. He's a good singer. but it's held together entirely by great guitar. Comes in under 4 minutes. It's a pop record with fabulous guitar on it. Made in Heaven by Bebop Deluxe. That was Autonomy by the Great Buzzcocks. I remember when that came out, the day it came out, I bought it, and when I heard that song, I really felt it was a new day for guitar playing. No exaggeration, that's true. The next song I'm going to play is by the Pretenders, Tattooed Love Boys. Now, Jimmy Scott, who was the guitar player in the Pretenders, was a huge influence on me, and you're probably going to hear that now. I got to be in the band in the late 80s and got to play Jimmy Scott stuff, which wasn't too problematic actually, because he was one of the only guitar players who had actually learned his parts. So that came in quite handy, but that's a whole other story. This is Tattooed Love Boys by the Pretenders.
You are that.
That was Tattooed Love Boys by the Pretenders, a band I was in once. And the next song I'm going to play is by the Yeah Yeah Yeahs. I want to play it because I'm often asked about modern guitar players who I like and admire. I actually think that guitar music is alive and well and don't believe the hype. But Yeah Yeah Yeahs have got a guitar player called Nick Zinner, as some of you may know. And he's inventive and has his own thing, and I've liked him since day one. So now you're going to hear how good he is. This is Down Boy by Yeah Yeah Yeahs. I was in my kitchen one evening when I was a teenager, I had the radio on, and then this next song came on, and I could not believe how good the guitar was. It's by Ultravox, the early version of Ultravox when the lead singer was John Fox, and this is a song called Young Savage, and I'm just going to play it, you have a listen. So there you go then, Young Savage by Ultravox. Some of you out there may know it, but if you don't you think that record sounds like it was made tomorrow? Doesn't sound like it's 30, 40 years old. Anyway, amazing guitar, well done. The next thing I'm going to play is by another big influencer on me. It's a guy called Bert Jansch, who primarily is known as a folk guitar player. But let me tell you, in the mid-70s when I first heard this guy's stuff, it didn't sound like, you know, what you sort of normally think of as folk music. It sounded a bit bluesy, it sounded a bit jazzy, it sounded quite complex and mysterious, and the word for it is groovy, everybody. It is very groovy, and you're going to hear that now. This is the band that he was in called Pentangle, and this is Train Song. So that was the great Bert Jansch with his band Pentangle from the mid-70s and Train Song. It was Call Mr. Lee by the great Television. How good is the guitar on that? Led by Tom Verlaine, the late great Tom Verlaine, but aided and abetted by the absolutely fabulous Richard Lloyd. What a guitar duo they were. Anyone who's been interested in what I do will know that the guitar player Rory Gallagher was an influence on me. Now, my influences tend to have surprised particularly the journalists over the years because they don't think I sound anything like Rory Gallagher or Nile Rodgers or James Williamson, and that's all well and good. Rory Gallagher was an amazing figure in the mid-70s before punk because he played all the time in Manchester, and he was someone who just gave off this vibe of being very approachable and unpretentious and someone who lived for his music, and aside from the fact that he was a blistering player live. So he ticked a lot of boxes for me. Also helped that he's an Irish guy, I won't lie, and just really loved him. But I thought I wanted to play him because he doesn't really get played too much on the radio, and what people do maybe know of him is this hard rocking blues guy. But this is one of the first songs that I heard of his, and whenever I listen back to it, I think I can hear quite plainly how he influenced me. Amazingly, I think there's a little bit of the Smiths in here. This is called Daughter of the Everglades by Rory Gallagher.